Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week, we'll be discussing Season 46, Episode 12 of SNL with host Regina King and musical guest Nathaniel Rateliff. I'm Catherine Coleman, and I am joined this week by John Murray and New York-based comedian and podcaster Charlotte Otremba. You can follow Charlotte on Instagram at Charlotte Otremba. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can do so at snlpodcast.com. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Charlotte, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. It's a great time. I'm excited to discuss this episode with you.
So excited.
Yeah, for all of our listeners, Charlotte is a friend of mine I met through a writing group I'm in. She's super talented. She studied sketch at UCB in the Groundlings, performed it at UCB in the Pit, and even some places in South Florida somehow. Don't know the story there, but Charlotte's here. And so, Charlotte, can you tell us what your SNL cred is and what gives you the authority to critique it?
Wow, I think definitely my authority comes from watching the box sets back when we had box DVD sets of Best of Will Ferrell and Best of Chris Farley. And my brother and I used to watch these on repeat. I remember we had like the Chevy Suburban, like the same Chevy Suburban for like 10 years. My parents drove it into the ground. And we watched those DVDs on repeat anytime we were in the car. And I guess since then, I've just been obsessed. So I'm so excited to dive in and people want to listen to me talk about it. Usually it's just my boyfriend rolling his eyes like we're talking about it again.
Yep,
we can take a deep dive. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. We always love to have people on that, love the show as much as we do. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts.
Okay,
So
I'm not going to let Charlotte off the hook quite that easy. I got a couple follow-up questions.
All right.
Okay, so when did you actually start watching the show proper? Like not just best ofs, but actually like what's your era? When did you kind of get into it?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say my prime my era would be Bill Hader, Fred Armisen. I'm trying to think of those sketches that I think are still my favorites. Whenever I rewatch those sketches, I think are hilarious. Anything Bill Hader is in, I die laughing. Same with Kristen Wiig, obviously a classic. I think that might be my favorite. And then since then, I've watched it pretty regularly, like every week.
Very good. Now, you're New York based. Have you ever managed to actually go and see the show?
I haven't. And I keep trying. And I think I need to just push people harder. I know there's people with connections who can help me.
Oh, well, you can always just do the standby line. That's like the working class schmoes way into the show if they don't have a connection. But during COVID, that's not really on the table. But if it ever becomes on the table, I highly recommend it for anyone New York based, since that's a lot easier than a lot of people that need to fly in if they want to try and catch the show. So you definitely need to do that. It will expand your horizons.
It's definitely an experience that makes the show all the more magical. Highly recommend.
Yep. All right. So that's, I think that's pretty much all I got for Charlotte. I think we should probably keep moving along.
All right. Well, let's thank our patrons then.
Patron thanks. I'd like to give a shout out to Josiah from Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Brian from Chicago, who wanted to let us know that our podcast needs more cowbell.
And if Bruce Dickinson wants more cowbell, we should probably give him more cowbell.
Say, baby.
So, any feedback we get from patrons, we're going to take to heart, whether it's ridiculous or legitimate.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
So we appreciate that feedback, Brian. And if anyone else, yes, definitely. That we'll work that into our next production meeting. But in all seriousness, if any patrons or anyone at all has any ideas about how we can improve the show, we are always open to that kind of feedback. And there's plenty of ways that they can get in touch through our website at SNL Podcast or on Patreon. So by all means, reach out. We do take that stuff to heart, and we'll see what we can do about that cowbell.
But the last time I checked, we don't have a whole lot of songs that feature the cowbell.
I gotta have more cowbell, baby.
All right. I will definitely work that into the edit.
Come on, Jim! Come on!
And up next, let's talk about some news. So they announced the host and musical guest for next week, and we actually know that we're going to have 2 more episodes. We'll have an episode next week and then another episode in this run. We don't know who that host is yet, but next week we're going to have Regina King and musical guest Bad Bunny. And I hope I didn't totally butcher the pronunciation of his name. But we'll see. So, John, are you familiar with either of these people? Are you excited to see them?
No, I had a little bit of time to burn before we connected, and I thought about just Wikipediaing them to get up to speed so I'd have something clever to say. And then I thought about how much fun I had last week with Phoebe Bridgers, not knowing anything about her and being, startled and surprised, and just the enjoyment I got from that. So I thought, nope, I'm going to stay virginal on this. I have no idea who any of those people's is, and I'm excited to find out next Saturday night.
Yeah. Charlotte, do you have any thoughts? Are you familiar with them?
I am not, but I like that idea of being surprised. So I think that will be kind of fun. I had that same experience with the musical guest this week. I was not very familiar with him and was pleasantly surprised with the performance. So I think, it'll be fun to watch it live.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not super familiar either. I know Regina King is from Bridgerton, which I have not watched yet. And yeah, I think I've maybe heard some songs that Bad Bunny's featured on, but I couldn't tell you what they were. So we'll all be going in cold. Should be interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about the Regina King episode. For the cold open, Tucker Carlson covers the results of the second impeachment trial. Charlotte, what won about this sketch for you?
Oh my gosh. I thought this was great. And I have to say, sometimes the cold open sketches can run a little long for me. And I liked this idea of breaking up the very political impeachment trial through the lens of the Tucker Carlson coverage. And I thought Alex Moffat did the voice so well. He was so funny and spot on. I loved that. And I also think what won about this sketch is the prosthetics and makeup that they do. I mean, so good between Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. I mean, so great and funny, exaggerated in the best way. And I loved this cold open. I really did.
All right. Yeah. Always huge props to Louis and the makeup team. They do amazing work on very quick turnarounds usually. So that was great. I thought the best thing about this was Beck's Mitch McConnell is so amazing. And when the neck deflated a little bit, that was definitely the best joke of it for me. Aside from that, I thought it was a little sprawling. I think they were trying to do something different than just let's sit in on the impeachment trial, and I respect that because I wouldn't have liked that either. But yeah, I feel like if we would maybe have just stayed on McConnell's take more, or just a little less stuff, it would have been stronger. I'm not the biggest fan of the political cold opens, so it is what it is. And yeah, that it is what it is, I think, is my best review on this sketch. So
those are good points.
John, what was your take on it?
My only real hot take Charlotte stole, which was Alex as Tucker was spot on, just sterling. If you close your eyes, you might think that you're hearing Tucker Carlson. So I really wanted to applaud that. Alex always impresses. But otherwise, I think you guys have kind of said the highs and lows of it. It went in a few too many different directions. So it felt like it was lacking a little bit of focus. I think I would have liked to see them maybe just stay in the chamber and really go full out on goofing on the train wreck defense that was offered. Like, I think there was probably a lot more meat there that if they'd wanted to, they could have just built something right around that. And then you've got more of a story to the cold open rather than just this grab bag of here's our political impressions. How can we shoehorn them into something? So I feel like it needed focus one way or the other. But Alex Moffat, if anything was really kind of perking me up, it was that. Otherwise, yeah, just kind of meh.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
I gotta have more cowbell.
Let's move on into the monologue. Regina King introduces herself to the SNL audience with help from hype man Kenan Thompson. John, how'd you feel about the monologue? How was this introduction to Regina King?
I thought it was pretty good. I think she sells herself very well. She was very in control, and she had, just a good energy. There was a bit of force to her presentation there. And I don't know. I don't think we've ever seen a Kenan hype man gag before. So, there was something novel about that. Overall, I thought it worked. They weren't really reaching for anything crazy, but for a modest cold open where you do get an assist from one of the seasoned players, I thought it was totally competent. It wasn't fumbly, and it at least said to me that, okay, she's okay in front of the camera. Like I don't have any jitters going into this that I'm going to be feeling nerves for her. She seemed like she's got this. And I think she actually proved that very nicely later on. So that's really what it spoke to me. And sometimes that's really all you need.
Yeah. So interestingly, like, she felt very in control. She seemed very confident. I thought she was delivering a really good monologue. And then they threw in Kenan, and I thought it actually took the air out of it a little bit.
Right.
Because I thought she was doing so well. She was hitting the stride of the monologue and really getting into it. And then they had him come on and start interrupting her. And I was like, I don't think she needed this assist. I think she had this well under control. And so if they were attached to this Kenan bit, I wish he would have come in earlier, I guess. Because it seemed like right as she was hitting that stride, he came on. And then I was a little disoriented, I guess, because I thought we were going to have a full monologue. But I would have preferred to see her just do the whole thing on her own, because I thought she was doing a really great job.
That's a really good point. I would agree with that. I too felt that she was very in control. And a lot of times with the hosts, they, rightfully so, have a bit of the jitters, and you can feel it a bit, and they'll kind of go really fast and she was totally in control. And I also thought, some of her lines were really funny. I loved her, not that this is the most important thing, but I loved her dress, and I thought she made a splash in that color, and she was holding her presence, like you said, on the stage really well. And I did think Kenan was really funny, and I thought I will say it does, I think I'm used to it at this point. They do seem to favor now with the monologues, this bringing in somebody else or doing interruptions from the audience. And it's not my favorite, but I've gotten used to it. And as far as those tools go that they keep pulling out, I thought Kenan was funny. But yeah, it did also seem short. So maybe that means it went really well, or maybe it also means that there was more that she could have done either before Kenan came in or have Kenan in from the beginning, like Catherine said.
Yeah, I didn't dislike Kenan. You can definitely do worse for a monologue assist than Kenan Thompson,
Now, sometimes with the monologue, like, it's easy for us because we watch it week over week, and you kind of get a sense that sometimes when it's a first time host and they're unproven, and you just don't know really what they're going to do when they walk out on that stage. If it's just becomes too overwhelming, to give them a crutch, give them someone to kind of hold their hand a little bit. We assume that that's always the show kind of imposing that on them, but sometimes it's them kind of just, they want someone, like they feel more comfortable when they have someone to play off of, or they feel like they're better in some sort of a duo or an ensemble, or it helps them to present themselves the way they want. So sometimes that's at the request of the guest too. So I don't always want to say that that's kind of an indication that we should be like a little skeptical of the host's abilities or anything. Because in this case, I think she showed that she could have carried a monologue on her own without any assist if she'd wanted to. So my hunch is that she was just cool with this as a way to just change things up, because that's what they have to do week over week. They do have to always try and find some gimmick or some angle or something that's novel, because you don't want to see the same thing over and over again. So I think that this was just something that she was very happy to explore with Keenan, rather than it being anything that was necessary.
I think that it also the Keenan role served as a way to sort of get out all of her accolades and essentially her resume without her just reciting it. And so that does work too, because that would certainly feel kind of maybe uncomfortable to just start listing all of that as a host.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about the monologue a lot. Let's keep going. A dating game show welcomes Kendra Sutter, whose type is cringy white men. So Charlotte, did you like this one?
I liked the game. Like, I love that as an idea for a sketch. And I was excited about it. I think what happened for me is it was really funny and great, but I feel like they were almost trying to do too much. There was the interaction between the host and the DJ, and then there was each of the contestants, and then there was the Regina King character herself. So they were all sort of the off, and there was not really a straight man, really, or it didn't seem grounded, I guess. Or I'd be curious to hear what you two think.
Yeah, they were trying to make Cecily the straight man a little bit. But yeah, my biggest note on it is there was a lot of things happening. So it's 1 minute and 8 seconds into the sketch before they tell us what the game is, which is, in my opinion, too long. Because there was a lot of stuff setting up the host and then the DJ and then their what their connection is. And then I agree about the straight man. Like, Cecily and the DJ worked for that, and I see what they were doing there, but I wish that one of the men had been normal. So he could, it would have been like, and here's Fred, and Fred should be like the clear front runner. A lot like the Irish dating show when Bill Hader posted.
A classic.
We had like Kate, who was crazy, and then I think Cecily was crazy, and then 80 was like the one who was not his cousin in that one, and she should have won, but no one was paying attention to her. So I think if this game show had a dynamic more similar to that, it would have just worked a little better. And then we could have had some fun lines too with Cecily and like the guy that should clearly win, and like maybe they run off together. Like I think there would have been some fun moves to make with that. But what worked was Regina's back and forth with Cecily. I was having a lot of fun with. So there was definitely a lot of stuff to win here. But yeah, just a few things that I think could have cleared it up. John, what are your thoughts?
I like the observation of the couple that you just can't figure out how person A ends up with person B. Like what could they possibly be getting from each other in this situation? And I liked Regina King's performance. Like I liked that she genuinely understood that character and she played it beautifully. So this said a lot about what she can bring to SNL. And I was really, really impressed by that. But otherwise, that observation is fun. And these guys were sufficiently creepy characters for that back and forth to be amusing. But like you guys touched on, there was a lot of other stuff that kind of got in the way, like the host. And I think, Catherine, your point is excellent, that there was nothing to turn it on its head. There was nothing to really cast a light on it. There was no peanut gallery other than the DJ who just explodes inexplicably halfway through, basically saying there's something wrong about this scenario. And you do kind of need that foil to the scene. So this was something that I think needed a solid second draft, because they had a kernel of something great. And it turns out it was a perfect vehicle for Regina King, but with a bit more time in the writing, they could have, like you said, explored some better avenues with it.
Yeah, that's a great point, and definitely something to highlight is Regina King owned this role. And I thought, in addition to a very competent monologue, she came into this sketch and I was really blown away. I was like, oh, she's a natural. She's not relying on the cue cards too much or anything. She's really owning this role, and I was excited to see what else she could do throughout the episode. So it worked there. And sometimes that's the most important thing.
I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
All right. Well, let's keep going to Peloton, a workout bike for those of us that don't respond to positive reinforcement. Charlotte, were you enjoying the Peloton commercial?
I love, first of all, that they just keep bringing in Peloton for sketches.
Yeah, everyone loves to hate Peloton.
Yeah. So that's great. And again, I loved this concept. I thought it was really funny, and some really landed for me. Catherine, you and I were speaking a little bit before we started recording about how sometimes the second time you watch, you get a different take on a sketch. And I think for me, this was one of those sketches where the second time I watched it, I found it funnier. And that's only because when I heard Peloton, I expected more direct attacks on the riders rather than the passive aggressive. And the second time I watched it, I knew that was going to be, and then I thought it was funnier. I think the first time I watched it, I was ready for these really strong sort of attacks on everybody, and then was disappointed that it was passive aggressive. That being said, that might have been a user error, as I like to say, a watcher error. But I thought, the parts that I thought were really funny that I loved were the butt camera, the circus music, the gaslighting line, and the whole pregnant line that Heidi Gardner's character says. I thought that was so random and insulting in both ways. It was sort of a double insult. And
yes,
that was really funny. So overall, I thought this sketch was really funny, but it took me my second time to find it really funny. And I think my only note would be maybe to change the name, because taunt to me sounds like it would be direct, not passive aggressive.
Yeah, I think we have similar approaches here. Like I found the first half when they were doing the passive aggressive stuff to be disappointing, because I think this is such an incredible premise.
Yeah.
But none of those things they were saying were really landing for me. I thought they could have been a little zingier, and maybe more intense. Maybe it is that I wanted them to be more direct. I don't know. That I think those just needed a little bit more tightening up, I guess, because once it got into the second gear where we got the things like the butt cam and insulting his living room, I was having a great time. Like, that was amazing. The butt cam is far and away my favorite part of the sketch. That's hilarious. And so there's a lot of good stuff going on here, but that first half when they're doing the passive aggressive things, the specific things they were saying weren't landing for me, but the idea was really good. John, how'd you feel?
I think this was an unqualified win. I didn't mind the first gear of it before it gets into the really ridiculous stuff. I think you need that to help the audience wrap their head around the game here. Like it's kind of, it's not a super obvious thing what the trainer's approach is going to be to getting these nonconformist cyclists to get motivated. Like the way that they have to approach it, and the fact that they're doing this intentionally to try and play on that, idiosyncrasy of those people. I think you need to kind of show it in a simpler way before you can get to the ridiculous, or else I don't know if the ridiculous would have made as much sense. So I kind of liked that they give you a minute to just wrap your head around what you're seeing, and then they hit you with the 1-2 punch at the end, and then every big joke lands perfect, like the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Like that's when I'm like, oh, you guys found everything that you needed to find to really send this one off perfect. So I thought this was great. And as always, the editing and the production values and all that, not going to dwell on it, but this was a perfectly realized commercial parody. But I thought that just the concept of the coach that's anything but encouraging, but that the people need that. And there is this weird symbiotic relationship between these, catty, witchy virtual trainers and the people that just thrive on that kind of passive aggressive, frustration. I like that. Like that's such a it's kind of brain twisting in a way. It's just not an obvious joke to find. And I just respect that they found it and explored it. And I thought what they came up with turned out to be really, really good.
Let's keep going. Have you been victimized by Gorilla Glue not specifically saying it's not for hair? Call these lawyers. They're not stupid people. John, are you familiar with Gorilla Glue Girl? And what did you think of the sketch?
Unfortunately, I am. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just anyone who just cruised their Twitter feed at all in the last week is going to see some meme or joke about it. Utterly ridiculous. And this is what SNL exists for. Take something that has no, it's in the cultural zeitgeist and it needs to be lampooned, but it's something that has to be immediate because no one's going to be thinking about this in 3 days. So you need an institution that can just jump on this while the joke is there to be had. And this was a really great way to approach it. And I thought showing that you've basically got a whole family of miscreants that are all completely stymied by Gorilla Glue and they think it's made by gorillas. And, at the end, they got a great capper with Chris Red sticking his hands, literally sticking his hands into his pants. This is whoever's sitting around saying like, what can we do with Gorilla Glue that's going to be ridiculous for these people? Again, I feel like this was really well explored and that each character had a really satisfying glue encounter to explore. So yeah, another big win. I thought this was a lot of fun.
Fair enough. Charlotte, how'd you feel about it?
I totally agree. I thought this was so funny. Again, just a clear example that truth is stranger than fiction, right? Who would have guessed that there would be somebody that would put Gorilla Glue in her hair? And again, I thought, using the tool or the setting sort of a lawyer, commercial and playing off of that. And I loved that it was all one family. And then just how the heightening, each time it heightens, from the brushing the teeth to using the Sharpie on her eyebrows to the putty in her butt. Then the Infinity Stone, which is of course a reference to that rapper. And then that it's, they think they're going to court against gorillas who have this vendetta against people. This all agree really worked for me and was just really funny. I would even venture to say that there could have been even one more extreme example. Like I just wanted even one more example because it was so funny. Like if the gorilla came on, like maybe Pete Davidson dressed as a gorilla or something, I could have loved that.
Yeah, that would be a fun heightening move. I'm going to be the odd one out here, I guess. I thought that this had so much potential because Gorilla Glue Girl is a wild and crazy story. And what are other people doing with Gorilla Glue? But I don't know. It didn't reach the heights that I feel like it could have. The lawyer commercial angle on it is fun. I'm wondering if, what if we had been in the courtroom when she sues Gorilla Glue? What would that look like? Maybe it's a support group for other people who've been victimized by gorillas. I don't know.
Yeah, a parade of plaintiffs, a parade of victims through the courtroom, all giving their testimony or something. Yeah.
Something about it wasn't landing for me because as soon as I saw the Gorilla Glue, my mind went too crazy, and that's on me and not on SNL. But yeah, I just think maybe there were better places they could have been, but they found very fun things to do, like with Chris Red gluing his do-rag on and then, gluing his hands in his pants. They definitely found good stuff to do with it here. And big props to the hair department for, how Regina
Right.
King's ponytail sat up, but also like just wiggled just enough to like, be
Right.
hilarious. And then she knew how to move her head to make it do just the right thing. That worked really well. So yeah, it was a little bit more middle of the road for me, but I'm really glad that you guys loved it.
I really want to ask the hair and makeup department if they used actual Gorilla Glue in any of the wigs. Please say yes.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We can look into that. We can look into that, see if we can get a definitive answer for you.
The people want to know.
That is the question of the hour. All right, well, up next, a woman gets a lot of cute little signs for her birthday, but they have a concerning underlying message. Charlotte, did this one win?
Well, first of all, this is a callback to the other sketches that they do that I always love, of the sort of suburban moms meeting, and the Brie Larson one with the cut is one of my favorites. Yes. Or the one with the you choose your animal. Right. So when this started, I was really excited to see this sketch unfold. And I really loved this sketch. I had maybe one thing that I didn't like, in that I love the idea of doing the signs, and I love how they got progressively more direct, as it heightened. Like, went from funny puns about drinking to I have a drinking problem and I drink under a trampoline outside. Hilarious. I almost felt, and I'd be curious if you both felt this way, that the signs almost went out of order or something. Like, they sort of heightened, then went back down a bit, and then went back up again. Or maybe there were too many signs. I don't know. Something like it was just so close. But it was like as if the heightening needed a little bit more clarification, like maybe one more draft through and redid the order a bit.
Yeah, I'd have to get a spreadsheet going to remember the order they went in and if there's a better one. But you definitely might be onto something there. This one is, when I was watching it live, something about it tickled me just right, and I just laughed. I don't know what exactly it was, but my husband had fallen asleep, and I was laughing so hard, like he woke up again. He's like, "What?" And I loved it. I mean, I didn't even, when I rewatched it, I noticed 80 was tripping up lines. I didn't even notice it the first time. Like, that's how hard I was laughing at this. And when I rewatched it, it's not that funny. Like, it's a really good sketch, but there's no reason it should have killed me like it did. But I do still really love it. I think what's great is they nail these suburban middle-aged ladies so well. Like, my mom loves those signs. She's got like 20 signs in her kitchen that are like sweet tea and just nonsense. So it's definitely speaking to me there. And they definitely had a great observation in that, like, if you go in a place like Hobby Lobby, so many of the signs are about wine, to where you're like, how many signs about wine can you have in your kitchen? So they were definitely finding great things. I thought the places they found to go with it were great, how they kept getting more and more specific. I had just a really good time with this, and 80 nailed it. I love 80 so much, and she was amazing in this. So yeah, this was a huge win for me for whatever reason. Just really got me going. John, what'd you think?
I gotta have more cowbell.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it was like an unqualified perfect sketch, but I did enjoy 80 as the put upon one who's just getting all these coals heaped on her. And the fact that you never get any sense that the women are being catty, like that they're trying to insult her. They all think this is great fun, and they don't understand where the offense is. So there's something more fun about this sketch, that everyone is trying to be a good person. That I think that works well for this. To your point, Charlotte, it did escalate. Like, it goes from the funny ones that you would actually see in a Hobby Lobby to the ones that insinuate something a little dark but are subtle, and then the ones that it just drops the veil of any pretense and just condemns her outright. So they do that, which is correct. And then they do some things that are lateral moves where it's not necessarily a punchier or more scathing joke than what they've just done, but it's like a sight gag. Now the signs they have multiple pieces that unfold beneath them, or, other little trick reveals. So that doesn't keep heightening the gags, but it's trying to add a little bit of variety and flavor to just milk more out of this game. And then they reset, so they can disarm 80 and then set her up for another punch. So there is a lot of opportunities where if it loses, if you feel like, okay, well, now that the joke's over and you just sort of check out, maybe you don't ramp back up with it because maybe they linger too long on a side joke or they reboot it or whatever. So there is some room to lose you along the way with this. And I feel like maybe there could have been an out before they did the second run at it, where they now have like a different topic that they ultimately end up, giving her some terrible card for. So there was, there's definitely some room to shuffle things around and maybe find a more effective way to lay this out. So what we got was perfectly good. But yeah, I think there would definitely be room to punch this up if, again, you had all the time in the world to work on the script. They'd probably, revisit it and switch it around a bit.
Let's keep going. The hostage negotiator accidentally eats weed gummies, has a very bad trip. John, how'd you feel about it?
Okay, so can someone give me a little context? Do these gummies exist?
Yes.
Anyone know?
Gummies.
Yeah, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, but he said wee gummy. He didn't say weed gummies, did he?
No, they're weed gummies.
They have cannabis in them?
Yeah.
Weed gummies. Okay, that makes so much more sense. I thought maybe this was some new designer drug and this is a New York thing, and it went over my head because I thought he was saying wee gummies. So I would that was lost on me. Okay. But that aside, like that really wasn't a hang up for me. I accepted right from the get-go. Okay, maybe I don't understand exactly what the drug is that she took, but this fever dream hallucinogenic psychedelic haze that she goes through is a lot of fun. So I mean, there were lots of little beats that were particularly enjoyable. I thought Marge Simpson was, straight out of my nightmares. But overall I like this, and I like the fact that her trip ends up winning the day. And I like that, it cuts back to reality really starkly and she's sleeping on the top of the cop car. So I think as a story and as a trip and just as a visual overload experience, this was a fun ride.
Yeah, this is definitely from the minds of Stephen Castillo and Dan Licata. It has their calling card in it. It's just wacky enough. I think this is such a great idea, because you can start thinking of like the kernel where this, like, what are really inopportune times to be high accidentally? Your dad's funeral, a wedding, stuff like that. But like, what's the most heightened place to start is like, you're in charge of a hostage negotiation. Like, what great stakes for a sketch. Like, that is amazing. Yeah. And then, it went into it, and I don't smoke weed or eat weed gummies because every time I do, it's an experience like this and I don't like it. So it spoke to me, like when he said, "You'll be high forever," like, just great stuff. And then, when the sun started talking about the moon, it just heightened and just got crazier and crazier, and just talk about a sketch fully reaching crazy town. Like, this did it. And, now she's talking to herself behind Bowen. I thought they found amazing places to go with this, and it was just knocked it out of the park. I thought this was really, really good. Charlotte, how'd you feel about it?
This was by far my favorite sketch of the night. I died laughing at every single part, both times I watched it. Like almost tears coming out of my eyes. Oh my God. I think also just the editing made this so, oh my God, just the like boom, boom, quick cuts, and then the sound effect. And so you're in this world, right? I mean, they totally created the world of like this intense, cop detective show, and Regina King set up perfectly to play this. And I agree. I think I love sketches where the heightening can go right up to Bonkerstown, and this like totally went there, and they did not hold back. And oh my gosh, I cracked up.
Well, let's talk about Nathaniel Rateliff. He performed Redemption and A Little Honey. Now, Charlotte, I think you mentioned up top that you ended up being pretty impressed with him. So tell us your full thoughts.
Yeah, I thought, okay, I will say when he started that first song, I was a little worried because it was a little slow. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're up here, kind of, energy's high. We've been laughing.
We just left the weed gummy sketch.
I was on cloud nine, guys. And he kind of brought me down a bit. And at first I didn't really like him because he brought me down. No, but then, kind of went into the rest of the song. And I did think it was beautiful and, clearly a lot of heart. And I really enjoyed him. I thought that song and the next song, I mean, clearly an amazing band and vocals. I mean, yeah, I thought he worked well. He works well for an intimate stage, which SNL is. And I enjoyed him.
Yeah. I had a very loose exposure to Nathaniel Rateliff prior to this. I know one of his songs that is very different than either of the two he performed, so I was a little unsure, what we were getting. But I liked it. I think he's a good musician. It's the type of music that I really like, but that doesn't always make for a great SNL booking because, like you said, sometimes it just brings the energy down a little bit, But there's nothing wrong with either performance other than coming off of something like Weed Gummies into Nathaniel Rateliff is a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
John, how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, so coming out of the first song, I was feeling like it was just underwhelming. And that wasn't because of anything that he was doing wrong, but just because I didn't find it interesting. I didn't find the music itself it wasn't offering me anything that I hadn't heard. And I don't know, it felt like it was veering a little too close to adult contemporary to feel hip enough for SNL. So there was just something about the first one that made me think, oh, is this guy really this low key? And this is our offering for the night. And then the second song came around and I feel like I figured out what Nathaniel Rateliff is all about. And it spoke to me and I loved it because I don't know if there's anyone else that is like carrying the torch of that mellow 70s, like, milquetoast R&B sound. Like he had a very specific organ sound and he has some horns in it. And there was something very familiar to me because this is something that I'm sure my parents had tons of albums that would speak to this kind of thing somewhere between Procol Harum and Hall & Oates. And I was seeing what he was driving at and I'm like, oh, you know what? I have not heard anything that's trying to tap into that kind of a sound for a while. And okay, I can dig it. And then on top of that, I respect, his vocals and just how precise the performance was. So everything that he was doing was super good. I just didn't connect with the first song like I did the second one.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's get into Weekend Update. For their lead-in, Jost and Shay discussed Trump's second impeachment trial. John, how'd you feel about this update offering?
I'm kind of torn. I was hoping you wouldn't throw to me first because I wanted to gauge whether you guys liked it, and then I was just going to piggyback on that because I feel like they were doing good work. I don't know if the audience was embracing it wholeheartedly, and just again, the same thing that I've been saying for weeks is that I'm just so done with the politics, and I know that your country isn't not burning. So there's always going to be a new story. And I get that, when there's an impeachment trial happening, they're going to find some jokes on it. It's just, it's not what I want to hear. And I understand they got to do it. And they're playing to their base, right? There's a lot of people that are far more passionate about really sticking it to the right at this point that, I think we're feeling a lot of that from Jost and Che. And I think that the majority of SNL's audience is probably right there with them. I'm just not as passionate about it. So I just wish we could just move on from that stuff and get into the goofy stuff. And then it's exactly the same as last week. When they got into the goofy stuff, I'm having a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think this was their strongest outing. I thought it probably one of the weaker ones of the season so far. There were a couple great things. You know, I love the ongoing dynamic and the joke of like Colin Jost being super racist. So that's always fun for me when they throw one of those in. But besides that, yeah, there weren't a lot of jokes that really stood out to me. I just thought what they had to offer this week was pretty middle of the road. So, you know, can't win them all. Charlotte, what'd you think?
I would agree with both of you, I think. John, it's funny you said that. I also noticed that the audience was a little tough, and that's hard to perform for that. So that probably maybe affected their energy slightly.
Right.
I wonder if you might be onto something, though. You know, the audience and us as Americans might be getting a little tired of political jokes, too. I mean, we are just beaten down with everything going on. You know, we might be also ready for, you know, lighter and a little hold on the politics. But, you know, I get it. It's what's happening right now. I mean, you have to touch on the impeachment trial, of course. Right. I think my favorite line was when he just touched on Ted Cruz's haircut and he said, you know, something along the lines of, "This looks like a guy who'd be selling fireworks out the back of his El Camino." That was a great line. And I agree. It didn't I chuckled. I was not curling over.
Right. Yep. That's fair.
Yeah. They've definitely had some stronger outings. Yeah, let's talk about our features then. Stephanie Green joined QAnon to find out more about celebrities eating children. Now, this one, when it started, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, is Stephanie Green a person in the news and they're making a joke that she's a witch? I don't think that is the case. I Googled it and didn't really find anything.
No. Oh, she's the witch from Hansel and Gretel. That's the whole story.
Right, I get that that's the joke they went with. I thought that they were trying to insinuate that a real person in the news is actually the witch from Hansel and Gretel.
I thought that too.
I think it's a fun character to do. I was a little thrown. That's on me. It's okay. It's a fun idea, but it didn't really hit its stride for me. I didn't think it necessarily went anywhere fantastic. It's a cool observation. I think just there's nothing wrong with it, but personally for me, I wasn't digging it. So I'm interested to know, Charlotte, how'd you feel?
I would have to agree with you a bit. As I said, I fully also thought the Stephanie Green was somebody I thought I was supposed to know. And I think because it's such a normal name, which I guess maybe that's the joke, you know, it's like, sounds like a normal person, but she's actually a witch. So I love the game. I love that this is a character that is in QAnon just to eat the children. I think that is a hilarious, great idea. I wonder if it would have worked better if she didn't come on as a witch, because that's already like, you're on so high. Where do you go? And if she had instead come on as someone normal and then progresses into a witch or something, you know, as the monologue progresses and it becomes clear that she is just a witch trying to eat children based on the QAnon conspiracy theories, and she's been sort of tricked, that each time she maybe takes off the jacket and there's a witch costume underneath, and then takes off the hat or something. Do you know what I'm saying? It almost...
Yeah. I think that's a really good pitch, because they could have, if she came out normal, they could have added, you know, some post-processing where maybe she slowly turned green, or, you know, I just need my hat and, you know, put it on. And I think that maybe would have, I think that might have been a little bit more fun. I think that's a really good idea. John, what did you think?
My feeling watching it was, it wasn't really getting anywhere great, but I'm so amused by I'm so amused by Kate that I'm wondering,
very cute.
is just her Yeah. Is just her like charisma and her presence and her ability to just make love to the camera. Is that going to put this one over? And I kind of feel like it did. I don't think this is a great recurring Weekend Update character that we'll ever see again. But I feel like it was still fun. And I think that the story that unfolded is clever. And it was kind of challenging at first just to understand what her point of view was and what she was driving towards. Like what's she really all about? They have to have a little bit of back and forth before that's truly revealed and you understand why she wants to get in bed with QAnon. And I thought that was just kind of a fun exploration and just the idea that, yeah, if this crazy cabal of whatever that QAnon thinks exists, if they really did exist, of course, every witch in the Northeast is going to be trying to knock down their door and get in.
Right.
So I was amused. And if anyone other than Kate had done it, I don't think I would be saying that it was a win, but I do think that just, her as a witch that you kind of like by the end of it. Like you feel like, yeah, this is a cool witch. I'm down with this. That I think that's the best I can say about it. I think Kate really sold it.
I gotta have more cowbell.
So let's keep going. We get Lauren Holt's first update appearance, and we love to see that from a featured player. She's here as Mackenzie Taylor-Joy, giving Valentine's Day tips. Charlotte, did you enjoy this?
I thought she had great presence, and I thought she came on really strong and looked the part of a dating expert, and I thought that was really fun. I'm gonna say something maybe controversial, maybe I'm just too sensitive, but I felt really sad for this character when she got broken up with. She acted it almost too well, where then I just felt sad and and I love her as a character, and I loved this game of like she gets broken up with and how does she recover. I think maybe it went too quickly into the breakup. We didn't get a sense of this character. We didn't get enough from her when she started off. I was waiting for more of some funny lines about her experience, what she helps people do, maybe her ideas, because I think there was a chance to really make her more extreme and really, because I think they set it up, right? That she's supposed to be this dating expert that thinks it's so sad to ever be alone on Valentine's Day. Like if you're single, you're doing everything wrong sort of idea. And then she gets broken up with, which there's so much room for really funny lines. And I just felt like it was lacking that a bit.
I think you're on to something, because I loved this for the sake of, I was really happy for Lauren Holt. I'm a huge fan of hers. She's a person who you could tell was genuinely so thrilled and grateful to get this job. And I really like that when you can see that in a new hire. So to see her doing well and to have her first update appearance, like I literally cheered. I was very happy for her. And I think this is a good character. But I didn't think it was an instant hit. It didn't feel as similar to like maybe Heidi's first character. I thought it was good, but I do think your note is very astute, because if she had come out at first and talked just a hair longer about how much it must be terrible to be single on Valentine's Day and maybe give us one tip of what she's going to do, it would have let that breakup text just punch you a little bit more and take that turn to just be a little darker, and maybe that would have given us a little bit better places to go with it. Let's let John talk. What did you think?
So this is the moment that I wait for. Like, this is what I live for when I watch SNL, is when a featured player gets their first desk feature. And this is it. This is like your moment to shine. This is you front and center. Nobody's getting in your way. This is your ability or your opportunity to demonstrate your abilities and what you can bring. And so I'm watching, I'm engaged, I'm ready. And it started out, I felt really, really strong. I really, really liked the setup. I liked Lauren Holt's approach to it, bubbly and gregarious and all positivity. And this is a fun, lighthearted puff piece. And, you see what she's tapping into. And I thought she was handling that really, really well. And the moment she gets the call and her face kind of sinks, I thought she handled that really well too, because she telegraphed to the audience exactly the situation and everybody's right there with her. Like she's keeping the audience with her and everything is super strong right to that moment. And that's when I feel like there was maybe a creative decision or a performance decision that made this less than it could have been. She gets into a roller coaster mode where she has a quick little mini breakdown and you see it visually, head in hands, like crying, and then she steals herself and she's back in it. That roller coaster, I don't think was the right call. I think what had to happen to make this truly brilliant and really show the depths of what she can pull out of a performance was she had to take that and eat it and try her best to stay in it and muster up the will to say the gregarious, bubbly, lighthearted things that she no longer believes in her heart because she just had it rend in two. But she has to, with every fiber in her being, try and get through this performance and not let on that she's devastated. And that could have been like truly brilliant. It was still fun, but it wasn't like the home run that I always want someone's first time at the desk to be. I didn't quite get there on this one. So my hope is that Lauren Holt continues to like grow into these pieces, and maybe it's just a matter of, having some better material to draw on that maybe kind of finds a joke that lets her dig a little bit deeper on her performance and really show us something stunning. That's what I want. I want her to have a Heidi moment or a Bowen moment, and this just wasn't quite it.
Yeah, I don't think any of my personal problems with this fall at the feet of Lauren Holt. I think she did a really amazing job.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I know that that's not what you were saying either. But I want to be clear that I think she owned this performance, and I think she did really good. I think she showed confidence at the desk, so hopefully she gets more characters, on the show, and I think she acted it really well. So props to Lauren Holt.
She sparkles. Yeah, she has such a great presence when she comes on. So I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have one more feature to talk about. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl again, and he's been drunk all week long. John, I know you hate sports ball. Charlotte, I'm not sure about you, so we'll go to you first. How did you feel about the Tom Brady feature?
I loved this. I really did. I love Beck. Anything that Beck does, I think he does really well, and he's so good at doing the kind of bro-y characters, and he did a heightened version of Tom Brady being drunk, and it's timely. It's sort of what we all hoped Tom Brady would say, right? I think they hit on some really good truths, right? Everybody hates me even though I keep winning, and they just want to talk about how I kiss my son on the lips. I think there were just some hilarious lines, and he always sort of goes to 150 back, so that it worked well.
Yeah, because Tom Brady's a guy who's usually like fairly stoic and composed, right? Like I think a lot of people that do like Tom Brady, think he's a real classy guy. He doesn't lose his temper a lot or anything like that. So to see drunk Tom Brady is really fun.
Yeah.
And Beck played it, oh my God, so well. He slurred everything just right. And I thought they had great things. He's gonna crack his beer open on the trophy. Of course I was throwing it. It was a football. I thought this was a lot of fun. I was really enjoying this. And then when it took that nice little turn of like, nobody likes me. That was great. Because it is so true. Everybody loves to hate Tom Brady. And so I think that was a really good move. And I was a little bit sad at the end when he was like, "Nah, I'm just kidding." Like I wish that they would have let him found an out where that was a genuine thing that he was saying. But besides that, yeah, this was a huge win. I really enjoyed this one. John, what are your thoughts?
I had fun with it. The Super Bowl happened. They got a comment on. It. This was as fun a thing for them to find as anything.
Mhm.
I don't really know what to say because I don't think that this is like brilliant. I think it's, pretty obvious thing. Oh, Tom Brady was drunk. Let's goof on that. Beck
Right.
does a good drunk. I don't feel like it took a whole lot of effort to figure out what this was going to be.
Right.
That said, the moment in the middle where he starts channeling some faux Bruce Chandling, like he comes up, he's being positive, he's doing his thing, but then it starts to devolve into a little bit of, self loathing. I like that. And like you said, Catherine, I didn't really like the switchback of, nah, I'm just goofing. I'm on top of the world. Everything's perfect. You can't get me down. I don't know how you would have ended it in a way that would have been satisfying and fun
Mhm.
by keeping him in that mode. But that's when the character got intriguing. And that's
Right.
where, if there was, sad drunk Tom Brady, the movie, I would have loved to explore it in that vehicle. On Weekend Update, I don't know what you do with that to
Right.
exit a Weekend Update feature in a fun way. So they did what they had to do. But that was definitely the most intriguing, interesting moment.
Yeah, I don't have a great pitch for how to get him out without the turn. Maybe they trick him.
Right.
Like,
Or he
yeah,
kisses,
but I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Call the kissing thing again. Maybe he tries to kiss
Yeah.
Che.
Yeah, he
or
goes in for
something.
the kiss with
Yeah.
Che and they have to shut the whole thing down. Well, there
Yeah.
you go. There's your out.
Yeah. Charlotte and I are both available for hire. So
Hello.
let's keep going. After update in the back half of the show, we get Fleona, Queen of Disco, arrives for her show to find that nothing from her rider is there. John, how'd you feel about Fleona?
I really, really liked it because, well, it's a list sketch. That's the first thing. And sometimes a good list sketch really works for me because if you can catch me and do 3 or 4 items in your list that are obvious and then give something a little quirky that you got to think about and you dwell on, those are satisfying little jokes. And they had so many lists in this, and there were so many of those little moments where I was just enjoying going down that list. So there was something just fun about the list nature of it. I enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed the performances. Again, this is Regina King showing us that she could be on SNL. Like she, I hope she stays hot in her career, because I would love to see her be a go-to return host, because I feel like she can, if she's given good material, she can be a real force on the show. And this was another character that I think really demonstrated what she can bring. So I just like the whole scene and just the silliness.
I'm glad you went first, because
Yeah, okay.
I thought this was fine. My complaint was I didn't feel like it really heightened anywhere. They just sort of did the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But maybe the thing there is that it's just not for me. And that's fine. I think maybe as they went down to, the second and third list, maybe how they got it wrong maybe could have been more specific. Like, and I think they touched on that with Keenan. Like, do you have drums? Yeah, but I left them at home. So like maybe like a little bit more stuff like that might have kept it more interesting to me. But yeah, maybe it's just that it's not my favorite type of sketch, and that's why it felt a little bit more not quite high heights for me.
Yeah, I think you need to accept that it's not going to be like Gonzo. It's not trying to get to that height. It just purely is just the amusement of these characters kind of wallowing in this era. That's at least what I was pulling from it.
Yeah. So Charlotte, how'd you feel about it?
I hear what you all are saying. I'm really glad you both went first, because for me, this fell a bit flat. Now that you all have said why you liked it, I think I appreciate it more. And I appreciated at the time. I appreciated the writing, right? The sort of wordsmith nature of these lines that they delivered really quickly, and that they all delivered them so quickly as performers. I appreciated all of that, but I guess I agree. It didn't heighten in a way that I wanted.
Yeah, I agree. Might just come down to personal preferences on this one. Well, let's get into our 10-to-1. A feminist theater ensemble performs monologues about their elbows at a school assembly. It's definitely about their elbows, right, everybody? Charlotte, how did you feel about this one?
This was a clear game, replace the word vagina with elbow. Thought that was a hilarious way to approach this, choosing the most sort of random body part. And I also just feel like elbows themselves are just funny. I don't know if the word is funny to say or whatever it is. This sketch was a classic. It was taking vagina monologues. They all looked like it just was exactly vagina monologues, subbing elbow in a school setting. I thought this played well. I just thought it was kind of a classic. I don't really have any notes. I thought this worked.
Yeah. I think this is a fun, clear premise. It took me just a second when Regina was giving her monologue. I was like, okay, yep, she's talking about her vagina. Okay, but is she talking? Like, it took me a second to catch on that what they had done was just replace it with elbows. But once I did, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is fun. This is a good time. But and so everything about that was good. The weirdly specific thing I want to talk about is that SNL always does these things at the beginning of sketches. So we have Melissa talking about it, and Mikey says, "Thanks for your thing about why school should be taller." There's there's always these great throwaway lines at the beginning of sketches. Like, one that stands out to me is in Career Day with Adam Driver, Alex Moffat is before him as a firefighter, and he says, "And in my opinion, that's how you make the fire go away." And like, that's just so funny. And I really love those little throwaway lines up top. I think they do a really great job with those. So a thing not at all related to the actual sketch, but is important to me and I thought was worth mentioning. John, how'd you feel about the sketch?
I really liked it. It felt like something that I could see being performed at a dank improv theater. And it made me really long for not being able to go and catch a show at a dank improv theater. It's been too long. And so just something like this that seems like it was so made for a live stage, and you could totally see it being part of some review or some sketch show that it just had me a little wistful for pre-COVID days when I could, indulge that. So it already had me feeling good because this felt like the sketchiest of sketches that we got tonight. But also the joke is so good. And to find out that the only reason why they went with elbow is so that they would have that capper line where they sub vagina in for elbow when they actually use that for their closing statement. That, I don't know, that just was really satisfying. It's simple and it's dumb. And for some reason I just eat it up and it's really satisfying. And I've mentioned it before, Catherine. I like when you put something really, really inappropriate in front of kids and you just get to kind of squirm in that thought, of, oh, they shouldn't be seeing this or, like the taboo nature of it is fun. So I always like just kids being a party to dirty things that their little mind shouldn't have to grapple with.
Yeah. It was fun enough. That's the end of the rundown. So let's get into our overall thoughts. Charlotte, we're going to go to you first on these. So tell me, what was your moment of the night?
Whew, pressure. I think Keenan's line, "Who among us?"
Or putting on floor wax because you was ass-shaped. Who among us?
Was probably my moment of the night. That just felt like it's what we all were thinking. It's sort of a callback to, like, I don't know, older movies maybe. And the way he delivered it, it just felt like that came from him personally. Like, he kind of almost broke character a bit. You could almost sort of see him kind of laughing right before he said it. That was my moment of the night, I would say.
Yeah. That's a good one. Keenan always has fantastic delivery.
Mm-hmm.
My moment's going to go to Beck's fisheye lens butt, because I thought that was a great move and also just hilarious to look at. I thought that was the standout of the Peloton sketch. John, what's your moment?
Also from the Peloton sketch, I loved when they pipe in the Curb Your Enthusiasm music to just totally deflate them. It's so insulting, and it's become kind of a meme that anytime someone does something sort of derpy, you just layer in that music, and it just underscores the stupidity of what you're looking at.
Right.
And it was just the right musical cue to really work in that sketch. And it just that was the first belly laugh of the show for me. Was oh yeah, they got me on that one. That is so pitch perfect. So yeah, that I thought was the first great moment of the show.
All right. Let's talk about best sketch. Charlotte?
Negotiator. That was my favorite. I thought that was the best sketch. So tight, so up to a 10, like heightened to a 10. I love when sketches can go so far, and I guess, eating a bag of weed, not gummies, gets you there. So that was in my opinion the best sketch.
Yeah, that one was really good. I'm going to give it to the wooden signs. Because again, something about it just, when I was watching the show live, it just hit me in just the right way to just really get some good giggles going. So, John, what's your best sketch?
Peloton. I thought that was a really clever idea. And when it got going, when it ramped up, I just thought they just kept hitting you with such great gags. Like the fisheye lens, like the Curb Your Enthusiasm, and just on and on. It just really worked.
All right. Well, the MVP. Charlotte, who are you going to give it to?
This was tough for me. I really felt this episode was well distributed amongst the cast and the guest. I thought everybody really carried well. It felt like a real ensemble show this week in the best way. I loved that. So gosh, I sort of am tied between Regina, which I know she's the guest, but I thought she nailed every sketch she was in. She committed and she held her own. She didn't seem to have nerves. She really held it. She seemed like she was part of the cast in the best way. And if I had to choose somebody from the cast, I would probably say Beck, because he got me with the drunk Tom Brady. I thought he was great as Mitch McConnell. I thought he, was great in the Peloton. I'd say he really nailed the characters this week. And so those would be my two MVPs this week.
All right. I think Regina's a fair pick. I think you can go with the host, and she was definitely a very competent host. I think she had some really strong performances. I think that's a solid pick. Guys, I don't know what it was about the wooden sign sketch. But like my immediate gut reaction was like, it has to be 80. Like she wasn't even that present in everything. It's not like she was all over the place. But that just really, really spoke to me, and it just got me, and she played it so well. Everyone was really great. Middle-aged ladies. Heidi was also fantastic.
Yes.
But 80 did so great, and I love 80. It's nice to have her back from Shrill, in the last several episodes. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to 80 for her drunken sign lady.
We know what to get you for your next birthday. I mean,
yeah, you're asking for it. I think this is super easy. I had this decided coming in. It's Regina King, and that's not off limits on our show, Charlotte. Like that's totally valid. She impressed me. There wasn't anything that she did tonight that wasn't absolutely perfect for what the character needed to be. And her ability to just find those characters. Like maybe they were just handing her characters that really worked with her sensibility. I don't know, but what she delivered felt so right across the board. There wasn't any weak moment where I thought, oh, that's kind of an awkward take on that character. That didn't quite play right. She didn't fumble any lines. She had great energy. She had just great physicality. She had everything. And every character was like fully realized too in their own way. Like they all had their own subtle little things that made them distinct. I was super impressed. And I would like to anoint her like the next would-be 5-timer.
Yeah.
And that's why I say I really hope that her career
Wow.
stays hot. Like I hope they have a reason to keep bringing her back because I think she knocked it out of the park. So easy MVP for Regina King.
All right. Well, very good. On a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, Charlotte, how would you rate this episode?
Whew. I think this is a classic or a great. I mean, this was a top episode for me. There were not many flops, in my opinion. I think they've really hit their groove this season. They found the energy. And like I said, even the sketches that didn't really hit for me, I still got it. Like I still appreciated them. It wasn't like, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a really top episode. I'm going classic or great. It's up there for me.
Okay.
Wow.
But gun to your head, which side of the line you
Oh
landed
gosh,
on?
don't make me. I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. I feel like you can't call something classic right when it comes out. Do you know what I mean? Like
that is a weak answer.
weak.
You're here
Okay,
to give commentary on SNL.
Okay, I'm giving it classic then. I think it's classic
Wow.
because
That's a bold move.
It's bold, but because I agree with you, John. I think Regina King is setting herself up to be a recurring host. I really do.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be like an Adam Driver who every time he comes back nails it. An Eddie Murphy, who she even, mentioned in her monologue. Right. I think it's up there. I'm going to give a classic, gun to my head.
Very
Since
good.
you made me.
No, I respect you just going out on a limb and going with your gut and sticking to your opinion. That's awesome. Okay. Is it my turn, Catherine?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm honestly not that far off from you, Charlotte. Like, if for some reason this does turn out in hindsight to be the stunning debut of an SNL staple over the next 5 years or something, and she does become a recurring host, and we look back on it kind of like Melissa McCarthy's first outing or something like that. If that's what this does turn out to be, then yeah, I think there could be an argument for that. But purely on the merits of the episode and not just maybe that meta, I think I can land at a great on this. I really enjoyed the sketch fair tonight. I like pretty much all the, regular rundown sketches, but I thought a couple of the fundamentals were lacking. I thought the cold open was lacking, and I thought Jost and Che, it wasn't necessarily working for me. And I can't quite pinpoint what wasn't working about that, but the features were working. So aside from a couple of those fundamentals not quite being what I think they would need to be like an unqualified classic, I think there was a lot of good stuff in here that will easily be turned into like one of their 1 hour, 10 o'clock vintage episodes. So I think that's good enough to offer it a solid great.
Now I feel bad.
No. Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
I thought this was very firmly a decent. I have a hard time. I'm tempted to be like, okay, fine, it's a great, but
no.
That's because I'm a people pleaser. There were only really 2, maybe 3 sketches that I really liked, and then there were several that I thought had a lot of potential that didn't get met. Didn't love the cold open week update. So yeah, I mean, I thought it's definitely not weak or train wreck. There's some good stuff here, but yeah, I just not a very consistent episode for me personally. So
okay, No, that's fair. As I'm going back through the rundown, I'm thinking about like the dating game show, and I was thinking, that one had potential but needed a rewrite. And the Signs one that you thought was tops. I thought that could have used a little bit of punching up as well. So I wouldn't suggest that there isn't room for improvement. But the sketch fair tonight, maybe it was just the subject matter. There was a lot of lighthearted stuff that wasn't super duper political or timely, or the stuff that was timely was about Gorilla Glue, which I'm all in on that. So maybe it was just that the tone of the show and the playfulness of the sketch fair and the goofiness of the sketch fair was what I was hankering. Like, it's just what I wanted to see. And so maybe I'm bumping it up a grade because on its technical merits, you're right, Catherine. There's definitely some weak patches here. I just had a lot of fun with it. I think that's why it got over the line into great for me.
Fair enough. Hey, comedy's subjective. We're all going to have different takes on it. That's the beauty, right?
Very true.
All right. Well, an episode with, if nothing else, a few good sketches and a very competent host that we would all love to see back. I thought she did a fantastic job. Definitely excited for Regina King, and I'm interested to check out more of her work too. So for sure. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for being here.
Gosh, you guys, this was a blast. It was a blast. This was so much fun. Thanks for having me on. I just loved talking about each. So great to have a deep dive with people who want to listen. So.
It's good to nerd out. We don't always have like an SNL buddy that you can go and bat these things around with. So that's our podcast serves a very important role in the New York comedy community.
Love it.
Yeah. So Charlotte, if people want to hear more of you and your, fun personality and jokes, we can listen to the Charlotte O'Trimba Show, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that and where to find it?
Correct. The Charlotte O'Trimba Show is a podcast found wherever you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube, so you can watch the video version. I cover everything from latest pop culture to daily mishaps, kind of a live half-hour comedy podcast, nice and light, no politics here. And I have some great guests coming up, and those are a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a light, fun show, definitely check out the Charlotte O'Trimba Show. And you can follow me on Instagram at Charlotte O'Trimba, find me on YouTube at Charlotte O'Trimba, where you can find my show and some other clips. And this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I gotta have more cowbell.
All right, well, that's a wrap. Thanks to Charlotte O'Trimba and John Murray. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Sam Bowers, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Carissa Eubank, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back next week when SNL returns with host Regé-Jean Page and musical guest Bad Bunny. But until then, this has been episode number 128 of the Saturday Night Live Afterparty podcast. I'm Catherine Coleman. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.